Hi everyone! So I want to start off with Cleopatra's moon because it reveals someone who is emotionally driven to become respected, recognized, and remembered by the public. Because the moon represents our emotions and what makes us feel secure. And for her, it's in the 10th house, which represents our career, public image, and reputation. And it sits in the sign of Leo, which is about leadership and visibility. So this means that Cleopatra's emotional security could have been deeply connected to her ability to present herself as a powerful leader. And this reflects her position as a ruling queen, because she was constantly being challenged. Like when Cleopatra's father died, she became a co-ruler of Egypt with her brother. But her brother turned against her, which forced her out of the country. And this meant that her sense of safety was directly in relation to a position of a royal leader, as well as her public image and reputation. And she couldn't only privately believe that she deserved to rule, she had to make other people believe in it as well. Or she would have to defeat the people who stood in the way, which I will go through later on. And with Leo being here, she probably understood the importance of presentation. She may have known that the way she carried herself or spoke to people could influence how powerful other people believed she was. So on the surface, she may have appeared confident, dramatic, and completely comfortable with receiving attention. But underneath that confidence, there was an emotional need to maintain control over how she was seen by others. She knew what the stakes were. And this is one of the strongest inclination in her chart of someone who understood that public image could be used as a form of power. So if you have your moon here too, you might not be the next ruler of Egypt, but you probably feel emotionally fulfilled by inspiring others or when you're earning recognition for your contribution or your success. And I also have to mention that Cleopatra was born thousands of years ago, so it's impossible to know for sure what time she was born. So this is an alleged birth chart, but it's one that I believe could have been true or close to her true one. So moving on, Cleopatra also got her midheaven in Leo, and this is another clear sign that Cleopatra was meant to be visible, because the midheaven, like the 10th house, represents our career, reputation, and the image that becomes associated with us publicly. And Leo wants to lead and be respected and remembered. So this makes her Leo moon even more important because her emotional world and her public direction are connected to Leo energy. And this means that she was meant to be in the public eye. And this is very clear with Cleopatra because her name became almost inseparable from the image of a queen, where the people focus on her intelligence, her political decisions, her relationships, or the legends created around her. She became one of the most recognizable rulers in history. So her Leo midheaven could have given her the ability to turn herself into the central character within her own political story. And another important placement in Cleopatra's chart is her sun, which sits in Capricorn in the 3rd house. And this can create someone who develops their identity through strategic thinking and controlled communication. Because the sun is the main part of our identity, and the 3rd house is about the mind, thoughts, communication, and how we process information. While Capricorn represents ambition, discipline, authority, and long-term planning. So this means that Cleopatra's intelligence and the way she communicated were probably central parts of her identity. And Capricorn does not usually act without thinking about the long-term consequences. So Cleopatra may have been very careful about what she said, who she said it to, and what she wanted the conversation to achieve. She understood that one negotiation or conversation could completely change her political position. So her Capricorn Sun could have made communication one of her main political tools. She may have presented her words carefully and intentionally, while also thinking several steps ahead. And right next to her Sun, she got her Saturn, still in the 3rd house, but in Aquarius. And this can create someone who is able to give structure to original or unconventional ideas. Because Saturn is about discipline, responsibility, and control. And the 3rd house connects this discipline to the mind, learning, and communication. But Aquarius is about originality and independence. So Cleopatra may have been able to think differently without completely losing her understanding of how authority and tradition worked. She knew that simply following the existing system would not always be enough to protect her position. But she may also have understood that openly rejecting every tradition could make her appear unstable or threatening. So Saturn in Aquarius could have helped her balance innovation with discipline. She may have introduced unusual strategies while still presenting them in a controlled or intelligent way. And because the Sun and Saturn sit so close together, it means that they are in conjunction, and this will merge the energies together. And this particular conjunction can make responsibility and authority feel like central parts to someone's identity. Because the Sun represents our core identity, while Saturn is connected to discipline and responsibility. So this is not someone who can move through life without thinking about what is expected from them. They may feel like they have to become serious or mature early in life. And this describes Cleopatra quite well, because she came into power when she was only 18 years old, when her father passed away, and had to navigate the instability of her own brother going against her. So her identity became connected to responsibility and survival. And because this conjunction is in the 3rd house, she may have developed control over her words and thoughts as a way of dealing with that pressure. Saturn could have made her cautious about revealing information or speaking impulsively, but it could have also given her the patience necessary to study people and situations and political systems before making a decision. And Cleopatra got her Mercury in Sagittarius in the 2nd house. And this can make someone use knowledge and communication as valuable resources, because Mercury represents our mind and communication, and the 2nd house is about values, possessions, self-worth, and resources. So having Mercury here means that Cleopatra's intelligence could have been one of her most valuable assets. And her Mercury is in Sagittarius, which meant that her mind becomes connected to large visions, philosophy, different cultures, and a broader understanding of the world. So she may have been able to create security for herself through what she knew and how she communicated that knowledge. And this is very connected to Cleopatra's power, because she was operating between different cultures and political systems. Her ability to understand another person's worldview and speak with confidence could have been just as useful as physical wealth. She was also the first ruler of the Ptolemaic dynasty to learn the Egyptian language instead of just speaking Greek, which is very connected to her Mercury, which is about, again, communication, being in Sagittarius, which talks about different cultures. And having Mercury in the 2nd house shows that her mind and her voice may have functioned like political resources for her. And Cleopatra's Mercury is trining her moon, which is the line right here. And a trine is a harmonious aspect that creates supportive energies between two planets. And as you can see, this line is thicker than some of the other lines, which means that this aspect is under 1 degree from becoming an exact trine. So this amplifies the energy even more. And this aspect can create someone who understands how to communicate to affect people emotionally. Because the moon represents our emotions and instincts, while Mercury represents our mind and communication. And because this is a trine, the planets work harmoniously together. So the person's emotions and thoughts can naturally support each other. And this would have been extremely important for Cleopatra, because to convince powerful people, it's important to understand what the other person wants, what they fear, and how they want to see themselves. So Cleopatra may have instinctively understood how to make people feel seen and respected or emotionally connected to what she was saying. And because her moon is in the 10th house, she could have used this emotional intelligence publicly. While Mercury is in Sagittarius, which allowed her to communicate a larger vision. So she may have been very skilled at making other people feel like supporting her was connected to something meaningful. And Cleopatra got her Jupiter in the 1st house in Sagittarius. And this can create someone who presents themselves as having an optimistic worldview. Because Jupiter is about expansion, optimism, opportunity, and belief. And the 1st house is connected to the self and how you appear to others. And Jupiter is in Sagittarius, which means that it's connected to knowledge, formed cultures, philosophy, and the ability to see the bigger picture. So Cleopatra may have had a strong belief in her own potential and her own vision. She may have been able to enter important spaces and behave like she belonged there. And this confidence could have influenced the way other people responded to her. Because when someone strongly believes in their own importance, it can make other people believe in it as well. And Sagittarius wants to understand the world beyond its immediate environment. So Cleopatra may have recognized that protecting Egypt required understanding different cultures and political systems, both inside and outside of Egypt. And Cleopatra got her Mars in Libra in the 11th house. And this suggests someone who pursues their goals through connection with others while focusing on balance and fairness. Because Mars is the planet of action, ambition, aggression, and what a person is willing to fight for. And because it's in the 11th house, that ambition becomes connected to groups and networks and long-term goals. But Mars is in Libra, which is about relationship, balance, and diplomacy. So Mars in Libra does not usually fight without considering how other people will respond. So if you have this placement, you may prefer to influence the balance of power rather than confronting every opponent openly. She needed supporters and powerful people who believed that helping her would also benefit themselves. So instead of just using direct force, she may have used charm and relationships to move closer to her goals. And this is something we can see in the story that Cleopatra developed a relationship with Julius Caesar, who helped her defeat her brother with his army, and Cleopatra then returned to the throne. And her Mars is sextiling her Jupiter, and that's the line right there. And a sextile creates opportunities between two planets. And as you can see, this aspect is under 1 degree from becoming exact, since the line is thicker. And this aspect can create someone who takes action with confidence and believes that their action can lead to something greater. Because Mars, again being about action and ambition, while Jupiter is about expansion and opportunity and optimism. So Jupiter can make Mars more optimistic and willing to take risks. while Mars gives Jupiter the ambition and motivation to turn a larger vision into action. And in Cleopatra's case, this could explain why she was willing to pursue extremely ambitious political goals. Her Jupiter in the first house gave her that confidence necessary, while Mars in the 11th house helped her act through alliances and powerful supporters. And Cleopatra got her Uranus in Taurus in the 7th house. And this can create someone who experiences unusual and unpredictable relationships, or has a different type of view when it comes to relationships. And this is interestingly exactly the same placement as Sigmund Freud has, who I have also gone through, and I will link to that video in the description box. So Uranus is about disruption, originality, and sudden changes. And the 7th house is about partnerships and relationships. But Taurus is about stability, loyalty, and security. And this can be seen through her relationship with Julius Caesar. That was considered highly unconventional at the time, but it gave her that stability and security through her getting back the kingdom and being in alliance with the Roman Republic. She also had a child that she claimed to be Julius Caesar's. But this alliance also abruptly ended when Julius Caesar was assassinated. But the stories about her relationship don't end there, which I will go deeper into soon. So her Uranus challenges tradition within her relationships in a way where she didn't accept the role that other people expected her to have when it came to relationships. But with Taurus, she again sought stability through those unconventional partnerships that she developed. And right next to her Uranus, she also got her Pluto, still in Taurus in the 7th house. And this can create someone who relates their relationships to power and survival and transformation, because Pluto is about control, intensity, destruction, and rebirth. And because it's in the 7th house, those themes become connected to partnerships. So relationships would probably never feel casual to someone with this placement. Every important partnership could transform the direction of their life. And Taurus connects these relationships to physical security and resources and loyalty and stability. And this is very connected to Cleopatra's story, because the people she formed alliances with had the abilities to strengthen her rule and restore her position or threaten everything she had created. So Pluto in the 7th house shows why choosing the right partner was not only an emotional decision for her, it was connected to her own survival. And because Jupiter and Uranus sit so closely together, it means that they are in conjunction, which merge the energies together. And this particular conjunction can create dramatic transformation through relationships and alliances, because Uranus brings the sudden change, while Pluto brings the power, destruction, and rebirth. So when these planets are connected, a situation can change very quickly while also creating permanent consequences. And because this conjunction happens in Cleopatra's 7th house, those transformations become connected to powerful partnerships. An alliance could suddenly completely change her whole life. And this describes Cleopatra very well, because some of the most important changes within her life came through relationships with powerful leaders. So Uranus made the partnerships unpredictable, while Pluto made them intense and strategic and impossible to take lightly. And this can be linked to her relationship with Mark Antony. So after Julius Caesar's death, she got in relationship with Mark Antony, who was one of Rome's most powerful generals after Caesar's death. And he was actually married to another woman, but had 3 children with Cleopatra. So this means that her unconventional relationship with Julius Caesar ended abruptly with Pluto and caused a massive transformation in her relationship to Rome, connected her to another powerful leader that would also become an unusual relationship with Uranus that kept giving her this sense of stability that she was looking for with Taurus. And Cleopatra's Pluto is trining her Sun. So that's the line right there. And this aspect can create someone whose identity is naturally connected to power, transformation, and psychological awareness, because the Sun represents our core identity, and Pluto again being about transformations and control and power. And because this is a trine, the planets work together harmoniously. So this creates a natural understanding of power dynamics and makes it possible for her to use her communication, as the 3rd house represents, with people in control or power, with Pluto being in the 7th house that's about relationships. So this further strengthened her ability to build those long-term, with Capricorn, relationships with the 7th house through communication with the 3rd house that was connected to people in power and control with Pluto. And Cleopatra got her Neptune in the 8th house in Gemini. And this creates someone who understands the power of mystery and hidden information, because Neptune is the imaginative planet that dissolves boundaries. And when it's in the 8th house, it can make someone sensitive to secrets and intimacy and hidden power dynamics. And her Neptune is in Gemini, which connects these themes to communication, information, and stories. So Cleopatra may have understood that what people believed about her could sometimes become more powerful than what was objectively true. She could have been extremely aware of the rulers and the stories that people created about her. And this fits Cleopatra because so much of her image became connected to fascination and mystery. People did not only respond to who she actually was, they also responded to what they imagined she represented. So Neptune in the 8th house could have helped her understand how to use mystery and not reveal everything about herself. And this could have made her influence feel deeper because people were able to project their own fantasies and fears and desires onto her. And Cleopatra got her Venus in Aquarius in the 4th house. And if you have this placement, you probably have an unusual or independent relationship with your family or tradition, because Venus represents relationships, attraction, and values, and the 4th house describes our family, roots, ancestry, and a person's private life. But Aquarius is connected to independence, originality, and breaking away from expectations. So Cleopatra may have valued her royal heritage, while also wanting to define her position differently from the people who came before her. So Venus in Aquarius could have made her emotionally independent within her own private life. She understood that family could not always be trusted, and because of this, she may have tried to create stability through alliances, ideas, and political goals rather than depending completely on emotional closeness. And her Venus is trining her Neptune, and that's the line right there. And this aspect can create someone with a very magnetic, romantic, and almost mythical image, because Venus is about attraction, beauty, and relationships, while Neptune is about fantasy, imagination, illusion, and projection. And because this is a trine, the planets work together harmoniously. So the person may naturally inspire fascination in other people, people may not only see the person for who they actually are, they may see their own, again, desires and fantasies reflected through them. And this fits Cleopatra very well because her image eventually became much larger than her actual life. She became connected to ideas about beauty and seduction, even though her intelligence and political strategy were probably much more important to her ability to rule. And because Neptune is in the 8th house, this attraction could feel mysterious and psychologically intense, while Venus in the 4th house connected her attractiveness to her royal background and her private world and identity as a queen. So this aspect could have helped Cleopatra transform seduction and fascination into political influence. And if you want to understand Cleopatra's refusal to conform and instead defined her own path through her relationships and how she presented herself, I will go through it in my next letter on Substack based on her Lilith, which we haven't discussed here. I'm going to link to my letter in the description box, and there's also an archive of all of my posts on Substack. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next video. Bye!